All right. Well, thank you so much, Tim, for that introduction. And I am extremely excited to be with you, Carlos Sanvee, our Secretary General of the World YMCA today. And Carlos, it's our hope that I'm sure you have to be in a lot of calls and a lot of meetings. And as I was thinking about today, I got my tea. And I wanted to kind of envision, I always have this chair here to remind me on Zoom calls, let's just have a conversation. So if I could transport you and all of us, uh, it would be a lot squeezing in this office, but here at this chair, and you and I just kind of have a conversation for everyone to hear. So we're just first so grateful and thankful for your time. It's 6 o'clock in the evening. I want to get you to dinner soon. But thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And really, just to start us off, we'd love to hear about kind of the language we use a lot is like, what's your why story? So really, what is, a little bit more about you and your YMCA story. So would you briefly share with us about your journey to become the Secretary General of the World YMCA? And maybe even as a part of that, how does your faith play a role in that leadership journey?
Thank you, Dori. Uh, Good morning and good afternoon to all friends. There's many faces, many friends that I see on the screen. I'm so pleased to be here. And if I can't, whenever you meet on monthly causes, I will be the fly on the wall to see what's happening because time to time I need that as well. So thank you for inviting me for this great honor. My wife's story started a long time ago when we joined high school. And in that time in my country, I come from Togo in West Africa, a small country, currently is 80 million population. At that time it was 3 or 4. Um, the YMCA was linked to the church, the Presbyterian church. So in our church, when you get the confirmation of the Holy Communion, you have many churches. You go to the youth group, youth club, you go to the choir, and you go to another. So I chose to go to the youth club. And that youth club was the beginning of the YMCA. And it was called in French Union des Jeunes Gens. And then later on, we saw that there is something else called YMCA, but not, it was not in this one church, is ecumenical. And it's resonated with me. And then with the leaders at that time, we processed this to grow this group in all the parish and then going make it ecumenical. And then we became the YMCA. But we still keep the relationship with the church. I'm a Presbyterian. I'm still a member of that church, and then we do the work. So this is how I started from my youth group, basically understanding there is in the 1980 something, there was a World Council in Denmark, is Strand. So the people, I didn't go to that World Council, but the theme of that World Council was Thy Kingdom Come. So when our leader went to that World Council, came back and he's organized the studies on Thy Kingdom Come. This is where I think I got my calling to say, I need to serve that kingdom on earth. And that's why we learn that the kingdom of God is a kingdom of joys, of love, of peace, all those good values that are so good for YMCA. This is where I think I got this calling to serve that kingdom, and that every day my prayer will be thy kingdom come through my work, through my commitment. So I started like youth worker. I
Yeah.
was moving from place to place, from village to place. I'm a city boy, if you can say. I'm not a village boy, but I was going to the village and working with people. And then the YMCA started growing and I become a staff of this YMCA. And then I climbed the ladder of that YMCA and become the Deputy National General Secretary, who is a kind of the Deputy CEO. And then from then, things was progressing. And there was an opening in Geneva. And, I like to take risk. So I saw these things. I have no clue I will go to Geneva. I was just joking with a friend, and then I filled the application. I know no one is going to take me. Who knows? It's Carlos from Togo. No one is going to take it. So I sent this like a joke. And then I received a letter to say, oh, you are invited to come for an interview. What? I said, no, this is another joke. So, okay, this is a opportunity for me to travel to London for an interview. So from Togo, I'll go to London, but this is not going to lead anywhere.
Hmm.
And then by the time I realized it, I was appointed as an executive secretary. From nowhere, then I start panicking, saying, what is happening? Then my wife said, you say you don't joke. When you joke with God, God will, you'll find. This is how I found myself in this international from Togo, my little country, at the Geneva as a staff. And then I spent 8 years in that position. And then there was another position in Africa Alliance. And then I moved to Nairobi to be the General Secretary of the Africa Alliance. And then the position of Secretary General. So all my life, all my career, when I finished the school, it has been YMCA. I don't know anything else. If I'm
Hmm.
faithful to two things, is to my wife and to the YMCA. I don't have any other. This is how and the two fights against each other to say who is first. So sometimes it's the YMCA, sometimes it's my wife. So this is what things are. So, but what I want to say about my faith in that story, because of this initial calling, thy kingdom come, I'm driven by seeing God's kingdom on earth in the life of people. And time to time, I received that calling to be renewed. The renew is not the same one, it's going to renew several times. And that brought me there. And that's why when everything is very difficult, I try to find how can I continue to make this kingdom come to people around me. So long
That's
answer to
great.
you, Dori.
No, that's great. That's great. I just wanted to warn you that it's being recorded. I don't know if we should share this with your wife or not, but hopefully she wins out
She knows, no
more
problem.
than the worldwide. But I love that you've
Yeah,
been faithful to two things your whole life, and it's been the
yeah,
YMCA and your beloved wife. That's wonderful. And man, also that's the best joke I've ever heard. The fact that you, as a joke, thought you'd apply,
yeah.
and look where God has led you to become the first African Secretary General of the World YMCA, which is pretty remarkable. And we're so thankful for that journey that you've been on. So
Mm.
121 countries, I believe that's right now, 121, because we've added
Yes.
Kosovo at our last World Council.
Yeah.
121 countries make up the World YMCA. And you being the Secretary General, which you're right, we kind of use the term CEO in the US a lot of times, but of this global movement. Unfortunately, not everyone on the call may know a lot about the World YMCA. And quite frankly, before I started working for the Y, I knew nothing about the Y being a global movement. So can you just kind of tell us a little more about your role, some of the highlights in your role as the Secretary General, and then some of the challenges, and really what does your day look like?
Okay. Thank you, Dori. You know, the World YMCA, we are the Federation of Federation of Federation of Federation. So it's all the levels. So we are on the top out there, or maybe deep down. So sometimes it's upside down. So we are not on the top. We don't control anything. But at the beginning of this journey, in 1844, when YMCA is created, in 1855, YMCA at that time gathered in Paris to form this confederation of YMCA because of that all may be one. They say we need to build unity of this because the YMCA start growing so fast in the USA and they are taking to different land. Or they say the expansion of the YMCA should not stop us being one because this is what we are being called to be one for our testimony to be spread all over the places. So the World YMCA, sometimes I joke and say is kind of the Vatican of the YMCA. There is nothing there, but it's symbolically this is where everything is here. We hold the heritage and the history and things like that. And there is no power, there is nothing, but it's a symbol, there's a unity of the movement. So my first role as a Secretary General is to keep this movement together, to make sure that no one is left behind. It's so important. So we are 121 country. We are almost in 12,000 community. There are more than 12,000 YMCA across the world, in all the continent. Now, with this diversity, it's so easy that you lose some on the way. So the unity, to keep the unity of the movement is key, because that's all is that matter. For our testimony, for our work to be strong, we need to keep that unity. So part of my role is talking, talking, talking. This is my 11th meeting today, plus one physical one. And this a lot of, so from the morning I will start. Sometimes I start very early when Australia wake up, and then I finish very late in Latin America. This, sometimes there is nothing. So it's not every day like that. But there are that is intense. You talk, you listen. To keep this unity, it's important to listen to the people, not just to hear, but to listen. So what these people are saying, what is, sometimes people don't say exactly what they want, but you need to know and to realize that you can interpret. And we have very different culture. For example, when you're dealing with Asian, or you're doing in Africa, you're doing Latin America, you're doing with North America, it's completely different. Even the body language is very different, and you need to interpret. And the way people write, you need to be able to interpret that. So it's a big job to keep the unity, and sometimes we get it wrong because something you say here will create a problem on the. So you need to write one single email. You need to say how the Asian are going to read it, what the African is going to read it, what is the North American, what is the, all those type of things is so important. But God being faithful to all of us, we continue to do. Time to time, we did mistake, we come back, we do the thing because no one is perfect. But basically is that. Now, the second is that how do we make sure that YMCA outside is visible? How do we keep the YMCA visible beyond this 12,000 community? So where do we take the YMCA to? So when I go to international meetings, I need to represent the YMCA. And one of the call I had today is with my peer, with the big Cs, the Red Cross, the Scout, YWC, etc. So we are part of this coalition of other organizations where we say, for instance, the topic we are talking, the last decision coming from the USA is going to have a huge impact on the vulnerable community in the global south. How do we respond to that? So YMCA alone is not going to be able to respond. So we need to be there to see what are the other planning so that you come back and do. So it's about negotiation, listening, encouraging people, make sure that no one is left behind, tapping people on the shoulder. Sometimes you play the police. You have to be the bad cop and good cop. It depends on the day and week. So it's very diverse, and there is no single answer to that. And that's why, for me, again, the faith come. Sometimes I don't know what to do. Sometimes I really don't know what to do. But this is where my faith triggers in, and sometimes I hear the voice. Sometimes I don't, but I keep on asking to know exactly what to do. So it's complex, and in that complexity, the big help is my faith to God, and that's how I keep going.
Mm. Wow. And one of our final questions we definitely want to ask and we definitely want to do is to pray for you. And it sounds like your faith in all that you are trying to navigate really has to carry you through and really
Yeah.
does carry you through to maintain. I was hearing unity, visibility, but then also a lot of encouragement and then negotiation, challenging, being willing to challenge when you need to challenge,
Yeah.
listen when you need to listen. That's a lot, Carlos. And it's a lot. I mean, it's very different than all of the different jobs that we have represented on this call. And at the same time, probably all of those things are a part of our jobs too, in different ways, in different forms.
Yeah.
But we're so grateful for that. So many of our organizations will have, most of them will have some type of strategic plan. And similarly, I don't know if it's the right term to call Vision 2030 a strategic plan, but it kind of feels that same framework of what is our
Mhm.
strategic plan as a world YMCA, as a federation of a federation of a federation of a federation. And so, again, some on this call may be very familiar with Vision 2030, others may not. So I'm just curious if you could help us kind of know, how did Vision 2030 come about, and how did we really identify, 4 pillars have been identified that really make up the 4 areas of focus. I'll just state them real quick so we all know: is meaningful work, community well-being, sustainable planet, and a just world. So how did that come about? How did we identify those 4 things? And maybe a little bit, how do you see, like, how are those Christian? How does your faith play into how you understand those 4 pillars? Big question,
Thank you.
sorry.
Big question. I'm trying to make it shorter for people to get. I was appointed in 2018, and then I started my job in 2019, and that was the 175th anniversary of the YMCA. And we had a celebration in London to celebrate 175th anniversary of the YMCA. And this, a lot of young people, this is one of the places where I saw long people, about 3,000 of people were in London. And we're celebrating, and the question say, okay, what are we going to celebrate if we turn 200-year-old? What is the legacy? And we talk about basketball, we talk about volleyball, we talk about other things. But the way the world is changing, what are we going to celebrate when we turn in 2044? And that, for me, was a waking call to say, what do we do? So we brought some people to help us to see the world, the foresight. In 2050, the UN is talking about 2050, other part of 2050, 65, etc., 200, 2100. And we try to imagine ourselves to say, how are we going to, so we build scenarios to say how the world is going to look like and how YMCA need to be prepared to respond to the ever-changing world. And then come 2020, we have COVID. Everything stopped. By the way, I was asking Don, why do you allow this COVID? You called me to this job and I want to do the work. And why do you allow this COVID? And I was complaining one day to one of my elders from South Africa, Cesar Molibati, and say, Carlos, you're not asking the right question. It does not how you ask question to God. I said, what do you mean? I said, but I'm not happy. I said, yes, but this is not how you question God. The right question is, now that COVID is here, what do you want me to do? This is the question you should ask, not to ask him to justify. You don't have to justify anything to you. But ask, now that you have COVID, what do you need to do? And then in this process, we start reflecting. So I encourage our leaders at that time to go through a process. We call it padare. It's only in Africa when you have a crisis, the elder meets under the tree and to reflect. And then that meeting is not just the chief, or everybody's equal and everybody's voice is the same. And then you brainstorm and then you make a decision and you redistribute the work. So it's basically something that's happening in Southern Africa and in Zimbabwe, basically. So I say, let's do the modern padare. And so we started doing that, and we meet in different groups. We have like 15 different groups. We name the trees, and then people were reflecting. Through that reflection, combined with the scenario, we started hearing the voice to say, the movement needs one North Star, something that we all see from far, but we all follow that star to take us to the destination we are looking for. The path might not be the same, but we are all going to the same destination. The movement said this is what we need. We are too fragmented. We need to, the unity we are talking about is need to be also the unity of purpose. The unity of purpose, but diversity of the way we go to it. And when we went through this process and then brought some consultant to help us, and there was some old program before, but it came to say that through that process, those 4 pillars was identified that this what is the common denominator. In fact, we could have like 20 different pillars because YMCA, we are do everything. But what is the common denominator? If we project ourselves into the future is around work, the future about the planet, the future is about well-being of the people, is about justice in the community. There are many other things. It's about children's rights, women's rights, all this type of thing. Yes, everybody will do whatever is good for their community. But when we say the North Star, what's going to drive us collectively, these are the four things. Now, what is faith doing that? In this process, we all talk about we need to be rooted. We need to be rooted as an organization. And then one of the initial statements we put in place, we say, rooted and guided and united in our Christian values, we will focus our work in the needs of the community and the young people. So rooted and guided by our Christian values. So from the beginning, it was there. We need to be rooted in to do the work. Then when we come to the articulation of the collective vision, we say we envision a world where everyone lives in harmony. The word harmony was very carefully selected. We live in harmony with self, with others, and with the creation. Now, you see that there's the body, mind, spirit, there is me, myself, and my God. You put it the other way you need to put it. Even for those who does not have the Christian faith on the front, they find in this is our Christian mission. But it's also beyond the Christian mission because many people who are not Christian identify themselves with that. The word harmony is a very spiritual word that we put in the strategic plan that people say, how did you do that? I don't know. But I think it happened to say, we want to live in harmony with ourselves. So if I'm not in harmony with myself, I cannot have a harmonic world. I think that's why our program need to create a space for people to live peace with ourselves, with our neighbor, and then with our creation. So that's how it's there. We got criticized that no, we don't talk about Paris basis, we don't talk about Jesus Christ, etc. See, when Jesus was physically in this car, he doesn't put on his forefront, I'm Jesus. But he was being identified by his action. Let us be identified by action. I don't want to go, I know, especially in Africa, people travel with a big Bible on their hand to show that they are going to church. But now I have my Bible on my phone. I don't need to show that. And so that's my faith. This is how I'm feeling. Some people need to show clearly that this is about Christian, but it's true the tree should be known by its fruit. So let's produce the fruit that show who we are.
Oh, that's great. That's so great, Carlos. There's so many thoughts I love about being rooted and grounded and guided. Excuse me. I love that those four pillars need a foundation, and for you, talked about we're rooted in that foundation of our Christian heritage, and I love that. I couldn't help but think of Frederick Buechner's quote: "The place God calls you is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deepest hunger meets." And it sounds like the four pillars really came out of some of the deepest hungers of our world. When we look at
Yeah.
2030, where is the world hurting and how do we engage and how does our gladness and joy and service meet those places? So yeah, that's really remarkable. Just as a follow-up for that word harmony, you talked about that being kind of a spiritual thing. What for you, how do you stay in harmony with yourself? I'm going off script for a minute, but I'm just curious, what does that look like for you to be in harmony with self and others, especially as you lead in such really a divided time in our world?
Yeah. I need to confess I'm good at living in harmony with others. I'm not know how to live in harmony with
Mm,
myself. I do that and then I forget myself and I jump into the other plant and then until I hit a wall, then I know, oh, okay, you need to come back and find something. But
mm,
that's the challenge. I think this is what we have not learned anywhere, even in our churches, to live in harmony with ourselves. Uh, that is something is a constant challenge, especially in a position in a job like us where the first thing you do in the morning, check your phone and do things like that. And then we are reading, we are learning different way of doing it. And sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. So it's a constant battle to live in harmony. But what is very key is to realize that as human beings, we are vulnerable, to accept our vulnerability, and to allow that the Almighty work through us, not we work with anything. And time to time, you need to remember that you are just a conduit for
Mm.
the divine way to do things, to just open yourself to do that. And for me, this is what it is, what I say. I don't know how to do it on a daily basis. And generally, I come back to that when I hit a wall. But so how I'm glad that sometimes God put a wall in front of me so that I come back and I listen to that.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's really great. As I mentioned, we want to pray for you, and almost this whole conversation is also a prayer for you. So praying for that harmony to find that
Yeah.
with yourself. If we think about those pillars of, caring for the environment, a just world, meaningful work, and community well-being, those being rooted in the Christian faith, how have you really seen the Christian history play a role in 20? I mean, you've talked about it's the foundation, but maybe talk a little bit more about how you've seen things change with the Christian identity and expression of the global Y movement. Take, for example, you said, you had gone to a World Council where the theme was "Thy Kingdom Come," so very in word, very Christian. And now, if you were to go to World Council, that might not be a theme anymore. And yet, I'm also hearing you say, but it's still very Christian. So I would just love to kind of talk about how you've seen that Christian identity and expression change through the years. There's some threats with change, but there's also opportunities with change. So maybe first speak to how you've seen it change, and then let's dig into some of those threats and some of those opportunities.
The YMCA live in the community and live in the world. We don't live in the island. So we have been affected by how, and we are in the very growing secularization of our society. And now, in addition to secularization, we have a heavy polarization that we don't accept each other's difference anymore.
Mm.
Now, how do we affirm our values, our spirituality? And for me, being Christian is not just a religion, it's a spirituality, it's the deep there, is the spirituality. Religion, I can change religion when I want or when I find a better one, but it's a relationship with someone called Christ that I'm living in. And this is driving what I'm doing. So my friend just used to talk about proclamation or affirmation. And I find myself more in the affirmation of my faith, to affirm my faith on my Christianity. And I think in the world where it's difficult to say to people, I'm Christian, I'm doing things like that, we need to be smart on the way that we proclaim or we affirm our faith. And that is a tension. And you know that we are in this conversation about how do we affirm or proclaim our Christian identity in this 21st century, where when people know that you are Christian, you are sidelined. How do we become wise as dove and shrewd as snake? That's how the
Mm.
leader. This
Yeah.
is what it's about. So I know some people say, no, you need to be doing this. Yes, please do it. But I'm also guided by the Spirit. Allow me to follow what the Spirit is telling me to do in the position I am. And let's
Mm.
join our forces that the diversity of gift, diversity of things is not just one gift that God give us. Some receive this, some other receive others. When we come together, the most difficult things that I find is to accept that we are different, but
Mm.
hence we are like a body, but we are many members. This is the Bible say that we are one body, but many members. The whole body is not the hand or the head. We are
Mhm.
different. When we come together, we do things. But there are some people who want everybody to be the head, everybody to be the shoulder. That's not what God created. So for me, and I found that more difficult from our Christian friends than the non-Christian, because I find the non-Christian are more welcoming than the Christian. You know, sometimes Christianity can be judgmental. You are good, you are bad, you go. And no, this is not what God asked us. This is my faith. This is what is driving me. So we are struggling in terms of affirming our identity, our Christian identity. We are struggling. And we're going to be like that all the time. We need to live to be loving. We need to love each other, love the other who is different, and try to use, because by manifestation of the love, this is where God you find. This is why you find the God through that love. So yes, we are not at risk, because this is not for us, it's for God. He's sustaining his work all the time. We are just a conduit. We'll come, we'll go. Somebody else will come and go. But we all need to learn how to listen to the voice of God when he's guiding us.
Oh man, that's great. That's great.
Mm.
So you could say our world is so divided right now, and talking about Christianity, it's just too hard. It's too difficult. Let's avoid the topic. Let's just move on. Why even talk about it? Um, or another way could be there's a great opportunity for Christians to be bridge builders.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what role you could see the Y playing, specifically around different faiths and people of no faith, to actually be a bridge builder?
I think this the only thing the Y can do is to be this bridge builder. When the society is so polarized, and especially around religion, the YMCA by being open will be the build bridge. I know. I give some example in north of Nigeria, in Kaduna, when this is a community, this is a Muslim and the other communities. There's not. They start with those who are farmer and those who have cattle. When cattle go and destroy the farm, they start fighting off with each other, and then it become Muslim and non-Muslim, and they burn all this type of thing. And generally, they don't touch the YMCA. Why? Because at the end of the day, they go and meet on the YMCA to make peace, and then they go and do things. YMCA become a place where they burn mosque, they burn churches sometimes, but they don't burn YMCA because it's not identified to be this or that, but it's rooted in something that people don't see. Is the roots is what feed it. So in this polarized world, how can we be an instrument of peace, an instrument of unity, instrument of putting together? Is to embrace the diversity of the world. I know you are from the US mainly, the world diversity and things is very dangerous to say, so I'll try not to say too much about that. But by embracing the others, because if I believe in God, why God have to send his only son to the earth? This blood, sorry for my language, this earth that is many things is he goes the whole way to come and meet us. So why don't I go to my friends in the community? Why can't we do that? So this is what we are called for. And my relationship with God is a set of values that drive my action. And I want the YMCA to be the where we get fed to know how to drive our action, to be the peacemaker, to embrace people the way Jesus do, not to throw people away, not to judge, not to pull people aside. By doing that, people say, "Why are you doing it?" And say, "But no, I'm never afraid to say I'm a Christian. Everywhere I go, people need to know that I'm a Christian. But I don't use the Christianity as a weapon. And now many people are weaponized the Christianity. This is what is bad. And no, it's about love. Let's embrace the people on the way they are, accept them the way they are.
Mm.
I can say more about that.
No, I love it. I feel like
Hmm.
from my background, I would say, man, Carlos, you're taking us to church. So thank you. It's really, really good to hear, and
Hmm.
in the best of ways. So thank you for that. We do want to give time for everyone to have some discussion, but before we we'll have discussion, then we'll come back and have a closing prayer. And specifically in that prayer, we want to pray for you. So it's maybe too profound of a question, but I want to just ask, how is your soul and how can we be praying for you?
Hmm. Um, it's for me what, as I say, live in harmony with myself is very important.
Mm.
And also to listen to the voice when I need the most, because sometimes I can listen to what I want to hear, but to have this in French we say discernment. This the top things that is needed to be able to make a difference between things. When am I listening to my own voice? When am I listening to God's voice is very important. Most of the time, God's voice come through my neighbors, people who are around me, so that I silence myself and listen to what the others are saying. So
Mm.
really, this is what I need. I need for them.
Mm. We definitely are going to get a chance to pray for you in a moment. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you, thank you for this time, for sure.